Welcome to Note to File, the clinical research podcast.
A collection of interviews, candid commentary, and general nonsense for the clinical research community.
Check us out at notetofilepodcast.com.
And now, without further ado, on to the show.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome to another Note to File Live. How's it going, Denali?
Yeah, hanging in there, man. Doing pretty good, actually. How about you?
Well, not too shabby. I keep, for some reason, thinking today's Monday, but it is decidedly not Monday.
It's Tuesday. Close, though.
You know, just close 1/7 of the way off. It's not
Right.
that big of a deal, right? We did have our guest cancel for today. Should have reschedule. Sorry, my apologies. So you're basically stuck with whatever random thing we've come up with today, which is going to be sort of a sticky note-ish.
So super different how we do every other sticky note.
Yeah, I mean, normally there's a lot of preparation,
hours of dedication, research. You know,
that's because we care about our audience
deeply.
We wouldn't want to waste their time. We wouldn't want to waste all 6 of you guys' time.
Yeah, we're considerate like that.
It's true. I will say we are, in process of booking out new guests through the fall and winter, like sort of the remainder of this year. So we've got a pretty nice, I think, exciting lineup of
I was going to say, I'm really excited for some of the folks that are coming on in the next couple of months through the end of the year. It's exciting. A lot of folks will have some interesting perspectives, I think.
It is. And who do we
got?
A lot of these are already posted. So, we've got Del Smith coming up this week, which I was first time I got to meet him just last month, or it was just a couple of weeks ago.
It was like 2 weeks ago.
I have no terrible concept of time for whatever reason. I'm very bad at it.
And that's a fun one though, because we got to introduce his main stage speak at Innovation Network Gathering, and then we were on the same dive team together, so I had a chance to sort of chat, and it just sort of became obvious. It was like, oh, you have a super interesting perspective, a unique take on things. Like, let's get you on and hear your story. So excited for that one.
Yeah, good stuff. We got our old pal Steve Wimmer, who are just one of my personal favorite people, regardless of industry.
My favorite's the topic for that one.
Well,
Steve Wimmer things.
I mean, what else is there?
There is nothing else of value.
Those things are Steve Wimmer things. We're hoping to get, I don't know if we've had confirmed, but we're hoping to get Ken Getz on, which you guys may know does a lot of research about research, which I find super interesting. And I think, it's been also interesting lately if people have sort of also challenged some of the old statistics that get thrown around. So I'm kind of curious to hear, more from him. I think go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm interested. I feel like in the past couple of months when we've had other people on, his name has come up several times as far as defarm conversations, and there was another about data points that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and his name keeps kind of surfacing. So it'll be exciting to hopefully get him on and hear from the horse's mouth what he's actually been working on and what his thoughts are on it, besides us speculating on things that he has potentially put out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure he'll be happy to set us straight. We got a couple others. We got someone else that you met at Innovation Network Gathering.
Yeah, that'll be. I'm excited to have Susanna Fox on. She's has a long list of experiences, accomplishments. Author of Rebel Health, which is a book about healthcare and grassroots movements, and then among other things, working within HHS and all of those things, and an exceptional taste and length of paper towels that should be dispensed in a bathroom. So really excited to have her on.
Yeah, hopefully really delve down into that.
It's the important things.
So yeah, it'll be cool.
And then we have Ashley as well from the Research Social, which is sort of one that we met earlier this year at another event. In December, she'll be coming on and talking about sort of the social cultural dynamics of research and research sites, which is another interesting one as well. So really we're getting pretty stacked for the rest of the year.
We are. It's good. It's a good, maybe people actually want to come on. It's hard to believe.
Well, but I think, I don't know, I like the variety too. I mean, that's part of the reason we talked about like besides the fact that we just, like running our mouths, but like why do we do
Why
this, right?
do this? Yeah.
Why? And I think it is these people who it's a mix of perspectives and getting folks on who have different lived experiences and different perspectives of the industry and being able to surface some of that. So it's not just the same 5 folks posting on LinkedIn or in different, blogs, etc. So getting folks out there, it's exciting to be able to actually be doing that.
Agreed. We're doing it.
We're doing it. Woo!
All right. Let's I don't know. We came across a couple of things talk about. Oh, hold on. My whole screen. Make sure I'm doing this right. See, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared.
So
yeah,
this is an interesting one, I think. And this is sort of just, I think this brings up for me a larger question, but it's that the WHO, obviously the World Health Organization, launched the Global Clinical Trials Forum. So this is a response to a statement that came out in September. Earlier this month, they launched this sort of forum or task force focused on improving quality and coordination of clinical trials across, globally, which I think is interesting. I mean, I think, we rail on like forums and consortiums sometimes as far as like, why are people doing this? But it's an interesting indicator, I think, of how clinical trials are being looked at globally across this. And there's other groups too that we've seen. I know there's like the Access Consortium, which is like Canada and Singapore and Sweden, another group like this who have like focused, like a strategic plan for, clinical trials across their countries. I mean, specifically, they lay out the specifics here. I didn't get into too much depth here.
Yeah, and they kind of go into some of their specifics, but I mean, more so, I mean, the question is like, the U.S. is not a part of either of these, right? Like, we're not a part of WHO, obviously,
right? We decided that that wasn't worth it, right? And I mean, then there's others, and I think again, this is less so about the specific. I mean, I think WHO is a pretty pointed one and a pretty globally recognized organization. So the fact that they're doing this is impactful.
I've heard of them.
You have? Are you sure?
I think so.
And there's stuff like this across the board, but I think the general indication of this is that a lot of countries globally are looking at clinical trials and figuring out how they can enhance that, how they can sort of improve the process of clinical trials and R&D in life sciences. And all of these sort of have the focus of improving, health and human, experiences with clinical trials and access to cutting line therapies. And I think it's an interesting commentary that, to your point, the US is not part of either of these, or really a lot of global organizations right now. It's really not the direction we've been going. And in fact, if you think about sort of some of the movement that's been happening in the clinical trial space for the US, we're really focusing and incentivizing almost more so manufacturing in life sciences. So literal drug manufacturing facilities with like the tariffs and incentives for pharma companies to be locally manufacturing. And when you look at all the development that like all the large pharma are doing, they're building drug manufacturing plants in the US. Right. And so we're incentivizing the manufacturing piece of life sciences, but we really don't seem to be incentivizing the R&D side of things, especially with cuts to federal funding to the sites that are running a lot of these trials.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fair. If anything, it seems to be taking away from R&D rather than not just not growing it or putting emphasis, but making it harder.
Yeah,
worse.
I mean, 100%. And then I sort of think about what is then the implications of this long term. So as other companies prioritize R&D and they prioritize promoting and advancing and developing further their clinical trial programs, while we aren't, what does that mean? Where a trial is going to go?
I would wonder if you're a scientist, do you want to be here, or do you want to be somewhere else where there's more of a focus and emphasis on science and R&D, right? Like, I wonder if we'll see scientists move away, get out of the US.
It must have been like 6 to 9 months ago. There was like an open letter from like a collection of organizations in the EU, basically opening their doors to all scientists, and they didn't explicitly say US, but it said, calling to for scientists who are in countries that have like hostile environments for them, essentially.
Yeah.
And it was basically like an open letter to say, hey, all US scientists come to the EU. You're welcome. Come do your research here.
Sure. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see what 10, 20 years from now, what the ramifications may be. I mean, maybe sooner than that, but I mean, certainly you would think
it's going to be long.
You have a little bit of a long tail and kind of see.
I mean, I was at ACRO this year early this spring. I don't know. Oh, whenever that happened in Chicago. And the basic theme was like, this is going to set oncology research back decades from a science perspective. You're not growing new scientists in the educational system here. Scientists aren't staying. They're not doing the research here. And like, that's not just like doesn't change back overnight.
Right.
So,
well, I guess we'll see. This is what the people want, right?
I mean, do the people even know what clinical trials are? Would be my question.
No, probably not for the most part. It's another topic altogether. But.
I mean, I just got a children's book in the mail about clinical trials for kids, which I haven't read yet. Plan on doing that this week with my kids, but like
someday your kids will vote, so maybe get them nice and accustomed, educated about what clinical trials and science are.
I mean, I'm sure shit didn't know what a clinical trial was when I was 7. So I mean, probably when I was
most adults that I don't think do now.
Right.
If anything, if anything, I do think, COVID changed that a little bit. But I used to always tell people like, do clinical research. You're like, oh, okay. So you look in a microscope, and I'm like, no.
No. I mean, but it's an interesting concept because it did make it more, it like brought it to the forefront more. But
for
like
better or worse, but yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it got to the forefront, it got thrown into like social media, the public eye, without true education. And so then it became, I mean, it's like vaccines, it became politicized with zero data and zero context. And so people just decided to form opinions about things where this is not an opinion, this is a fact. But that concept seemed to have eluded folks.
People would never do that.
That's why they have children's books about it.
Right. Well, good deal. We need more of those then. All right. Well, great. Got real heavy. Now let's lighten it up a little bit. It's been a minute since sort of trolled Reddit for, some decent. Actually, I'm going to reverse these and first, a post I found particularly interesting about CRA being prone to burnout, how to prevent it. I've always I always talk to the CRAs who come through. I always feel like CRAs are great people, but I almost feel like I never see a particularly happy CRA. Like they're always either on the verge of burnout or they're in Oklahoma. I'm like, cool, where do you have to go this week? And I got to go to California, and then I got to go to Florida. And I'm like, what? Why you're all over the place? It blows my mind. So I just found this particularly interesting, and I wonder if it's something that's talked about enough. There's some really good stuff in here. I don't know who this clinical research guy, he got a good handle there on Reddit, beat everybody to it. 17 years as a CRA, I'd recommend reading, sort of reasons for burnout, especially if you are a young CRA, because it just sounds like a lot.
So I'm wondering if this is a problem that could be pretty easy. How much of the CRA career profession needs to be how it is now?
Well, it's a fair question. I mean, again, as we move towards everything being electronic, do CRAs need to be traveling constantly to check source? I don't think so. It doesn't matter. Even if you're a site and you're like, hey, everything we have is electronic. If you come here, it's just the same as if you were literally anywhere else. Maybe you can check on, drug. But other than that, I mean, I can send a picture for you,
Well, and don't get me wrong, there is something, and I think I saw this through COVID, before and during and after, from like the sales perspective. It used to be like you always had to go on site. Like forever, every large deal you're doing, enterprise, you always went on site, you did a day on site, you did the thing. And then during COVID, obviously you didn't. And it's like, oh, we did this all remote. And it's like, oh, we can do this all remote. And like from a commercial business perspective, we never really went back. We never, like, okay, we still do. And I do think there is true value in that in person. You get something that you don't, right? Like doing some of those things from a face-to-face sidebar conversations, all of those things, which makes sense. But like, I just think like it seems like we didn't do this in clinical trials, like where we were always all paper, all in person. Then we had to pivot and do remote and electronic, and then the need for that ended, and we're like, oh great, we're gonna go back to normal. And like we didn't take the learnings we could have and been like, hey, great, like let's take pieces of this. Let's do half of these remotely. Maybe 1 out of 5 is in person, and that could make the CRA role and life more tenable if we decided we cared.
If we decided we cared.
You can't bill though then for travel if they're not traveling.
Yeah, that's always kind of been my understanding too, is that like a lot of that stuff's getting billed back to the sponsor from the CRO. And I don't know, I guess if you're a sponsor level doing it, there may be a whole different, reasoning behind it. I don't know. Again, everything is so AI. This again can source not be verified via AI. Not that I want any CRAs to lose their jobs, but how much of that could be done that's not a human being doing it? But I don't know.
So, and here's like my comment on that concept, like AI is going to take your job. It's like, no, I mean, like you ask literally anyone, like, are you short on things to do? And anyone who's like worth their salt as an employee will be like, no, I got so much shit to do. Well, this allows you to focus on those high value tasks that you can do. And now you can get to those things. You don't have to worry about this like mundane, repeatable crap. So like you shouldn't be worried. Like if you're good at your job and you're like, you should be able to like move on to the higher value things that you can contribute and take off the lower skill things on your plate. That's what I should be doing. So I wouldn't say the CRAs would be out of a job. Their job would change.
It would be different. Yeah. Well, I wonder, like, is this, I don't know, how is this bad for like clinical research industry as a whole? Because I think when you think about sort of the entry level stuff, it's like you work at a site and like move up to a CRA. That seems like kind of how a lot of people start their careers. If you work at a site, sites are underpaid. CRCs are underpaid. It's a freaking mess trying to work at sites. Can be, still is, broadly speaking, not always. And then the next thing is like, okay, well, great, I'll be a CRA. I'll make more money, but you are running around like a crazy person, traveling. And again, I would recommend go read the thread. I think it's just really interesting to hear from CRAs and what the actual, real day-to-day life of a CRA looks like. And then you're like, well, this sucks too. And if you're not easily promoted, then like, what are you going to do? Probably going to find something else to do that doesn't make you want to, quit.
Jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting because I think every industry is going to have this. Anything that's not direct care. Like there is an element where like there's the person-to-person things where you're not going to be able to replicate or reduce some of those things with AI. But like any career, I mean, like computer programmer is a great one. Like their whole concept is like entry-level programmers to be out of jobs. It's only senior level that can do things that will, have jobs. Or like commercial folks, like you can have AI sales development reps and chat bots. And so like every like there has to be a place across the board where people are still being able to have entry-level jobs. Maybe we as an industry or as a culture have to shift what that means. And entry level no longer means bitch work. Maybe it means a more true growth path place, sure. Right? Like that requires more mentorship and leadership from, folks top down. But we'll have to rethink it as an industry, right? Like
I would think so. Yes. But probably not until it's, too late, way, way, way bigger of a problem than it is.
This is the way.
This is the way, the only way. All right. Got one more. I wish I had a little bit more time to read through this. I believe somebody did. I saw somebody, I think, post this already, maybe on LinkedIn. but it's, a post from a patient who was in a phase 3 trial and dropped due to a site scheduling error, which I thought was really fascinating and kind of goes through their story about, they came into the site, they were outside their dosing window. Even the site was sort of like, we've never had this problem where we weren't able to sort of override the system and give medication. The sponsor refused to override. Again, a really interesting thing, and I think probably maybe not to this degree, but something that happens all the time in terms of like miscommunication between site, patient, and sponsor, and with sites kind of being left in the middle. Either way, an extremely, again, fascinating read with a lot of input from people within the industry, and then the patient sort of trying to go down the expanded access route, which was also a whole different can of worms, right? I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how much you understand about expanded access, but I know a little, and even I'm still like extremely confused.
It kind of seems like the Wild West to me from everything I've looked into it. Like there's the concept of it, but no one really understands it. And it's not consistent for anyone.
Well, and a sponsor could just be like, nah.
Right. Like it's the Wild West is what it seems like. I mean, and this thing is just, I don't know, this article like was kind of a bummer. I guess we're just going to be downers today, but it's like the patient experience with this. And again, it's just like, that sucks. And like they were having a positive response, right, to the treatment that they were getting. And then now we're like back in the ER, we're continuing to have issues. There was no other alternative for them. And it's like,
well, and also like if you read some of these people who are, I mean, it's terrible for the site too. Sites don't want to do this to their patients. And then you see some examples of people talking about like being in the same boat, but generally saying like, hey, it's fine. We're going to be able to do it. The sponsor will, I mean, look again, it's unreasonable, I think, to not expect patients to be out of window. They're human beings living life. Like they're not always going to be.
Well, can't you like, maybe it's naive, like just log the deviation?
Generally, yes. And it sounds like, again, maybe this was something that the site had done before or seen, but then the sponsor was basically saying the IRT was unable to be online. I don't know. Again, it's hard to know the details from the patient side
perspective.
But what I'm saying is like, this is not something that's terribly uncommon. People go on vacations, weather happens, any number of things happen.
Life happens.
Life happens. And yeah, it sucks for the patient, and the site both, because the site's usually like, yeah, great, live your life. We're going to help make sure this works. And then for the sponsor, like, nope, never mind. And you have to deal with the patient who is, you've screwed them over. Like, that sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting where I start thinking about some of this stuff too, is like a lot of times when I've been in scenarios where like you unpack stuff like this, there's like two pieces of it where it generally falls down. And one is like, this is overcomplicated, just design wise, systems wise, process wise, like we overcomplicate things, which invites this type of thing to happen. And then because it's complicated, sometimes there's just people who make mistakes, people who are dumb, people who aren't good at their job. And all it takes is one person in that process to be like, oh no, we can't dispense it. And maybe they read it wrong. Maybe they misunderstood, you know what I mean? Or like maybe the patient misheard something or misrecorded it. And like, there's such a human element to all of this that I think it's like we get so caught up in like the process and the technologies, and like we forget the people element of it. And like sometimes it's not I come back to, sometimes it's not a process problem, sometimes it's a person problem.
Yeah.
And sometimes not even a people, it's person. Like
yeah, and shit happens. I mean,
just there's not really a solution for that, use robots. AI.
Eventually AI will be doing clinical trials on other AI, and humans won't have to do anything. You'll have an AI doctor giving a synthetic drug to an AI patient, and it'll all just be done virtually.
Just got a flash to like, Wally, like people on little motorized scooters.
There you go. That's the future. You just started learning how to dig ditches now, because we're all going to be out of jobs.
Why can't the robots dig the dishes? Dig ditches.
I don't know. I assume they'll enslave us and make us do manual labor.
Okay.
But
Just for fun.
just an assumption on my part. Okay. Well, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Hi to your cat.
Yeah, this is Bean. She's been bothering me all day. Hi.
And she looks thrilled.
She has been trying to eat my headphones.
Yeah, well, that will happen.
See?
Well, I expect our viewership to shoot way up because everybody loves a cat. So
Everyone loves a cat. She's our guest. We didn't have a guest today.
there you
Our
go.
guest canceled. Do you want to say hi? No.
Oh, now she's shy.
She's like, we should just retitle this. This is Bean.
There you go.
Beans note to file.
We will be back Thursday with Del Smith. Yes. Nope.
Nope.
I'm a week off.
You are a
We'll be
week
back.
off. With
Actually, I'm
more.
like 2 weeks off, maybe.
Yeah, you are pretty off. It's November.
Okay.
It's
We'll be back with another sticky notes. Maybe
Yep.
slightly more prepared, but probably not.
probably not. It's a bold-faced lie.
Yeah, it's okay. At least none of this is being recorded. All right, that's it. Thanks, guys. We'll catch
See you
Thursday. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Note to File. We're committed to continuing to bring you independent and unfiltered coverage of the clinical trial industry.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you have something on your mind, hit us up at notetofilepodcast.com.